Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with going over the test review. Okay, number one just starts off with the first part of the chapter. We're basically finding the sum of the interior angles of a convex 45 gon. So we're basically just taking the rule, take the number of sides, subtract from 2, multiply by 180, and that will give us the total angle sum. So in this case we have 45 minus 2 times 180, which gives us 43 times 180, which will give us 7,740. So the answer is B. Make sure that's correct. We have 43 times 180, and that gives me, yes, 7740. Okay. Next one, we have the value of x. We're going to go ahead and again take the sum of all of these interior angles. So we're adding this angle, this angle, this angle, and this angle. And because there's 4 sides to this, if I subtract it from 2 and multiply it by 180, we get 360. So if I take all of these angles, which is x plus x minus 20 plus 2x plus 10 plus x plus 40, and I set it all equal to 360 here, we'll be able to find x. We'll go ahead and combine like terms. X plus x is 2x, plus 2x is 4x, plus x is 5x. Now we have negative 20 plus 10, which is negative 10. Negative 10 plus 40 is 30, setting it equal to 360. After I subtract 30 from both sides, we get 5x equals 330. So x equals 66. So the answer is G. Number 3, probably one of the easiest questions you're going to end up having on the test, is going to end up being find the sum of the measures of the exterior angles. Well, I don't even really care how many sides it has because let's see. The sum of the exterior angles of any n-sided polygon always equals 360. Okay? Doesn't matter how many sides it has, it will always, the exterior angles will always equal 360. Now, which of the following is a property of the parallelogram? Each pair of opposite sides is congruent. Check. Only one pair of opposite angles is congruent. No. Each pair of opposite angles is supplementary. Yes. And there are 4 right angles. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Hang on one second. Okay, which of the following is a property of parallelogram? All of them are not, except for each pair of opposite sides is congruent. Because again, if there are 4 right angles, well, that's going to give me a rectangle or a square, but that's not a property of a parallelogram. Okay, each pair of opposite angles is supplementary. No, that's not true. Each pair of opposite angles is congruent. Okay, only one pair of opposite angles is congruent. No, that's false. Both pairs have to be congruent. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. All right. Number 5. Number 5, one of the properties of a parallelogram is that the diagonal is going to create 2 congruent triangles. So then this triangle is going to be congruent to this triangle. When that happens, this angle is congruent to this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle would be congruent to this angle. Remember our congruent triangles. So therefore, if angle 1 is congruent to angle 36, well, then the measure of angle 1 is just 36. All right, number 6. Number 6 says ABCD is a parallelogram with diagonals intersecting at E. Well, you know what? Best way to go ahead and do this is let's just go ahead and draw this. So we have a parallelogram, and we're going to call this A, B, C, D. All right, and then we have diagonals that are going to intersect at point E. Now we're told that AE, this segment right here, equals 3x plus 12. And then we're told that EC equals 27. One of the properties of diagonals is that they bisect each other. When they bisect, that means that this part is congruent to this part, and this part would be congruent to this part. So if this part is congruent to this part, then we can go ahead and say 3x plus 12 equals 27. After I subtract 12 from both sides, we get 3x equals 15, therefore x equals 5. Okay. Number 7 applies the same property about the diagonal of a parallelogram creating two congruent triangles. So in this case, this diagonal right here is going to create two congruent triangles. This triangle right here is going to be congruent to this triangle right here. When that happens, this angle is congruent to this angle. This angle is congruent to this angle. And this angle is congruent to this angle. After I know that, then I can go ahead and just set these congruent to each other. So if this angle right here is congruent to this angle right here, then 1/2 y will equal y minus 12. Same thing. If this angle right here is congruent to this angle right here, then we have 2x plus 30 equals 5x minus 9. So when we divide by a fraction, we're really just multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. All right, we just say 2 over 1 is just 2 here. So then we have y equals, we're going to just distribute this 2. 2 times y is 2y. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 2y from both sides. And so we're left with negative y equals negative 24. But we need to get y by itself. So let's multiply both sides by a negative. So we get y equals 24. Okay? So from a test-taking strategy, if we get to this point right here, this eliminates these two answers. All right, so let's go ahead and work through the next problem. Next problem is we're going to go ahead and subtract 2x from both sides. So we get 30 equals 3x minus 9. We're going to add the 9 to both sides. 3x equals 39. So x equals 13. So x equals 13, y equals 24. Number 8. All right, so we're finding out what the value of x is that is going to create a parallelogram. So I want to know what value of x do I need for this to have so that my opposite angles will be congruent to each other. Because a parallelogram says that opposite angles are congruent to each other. So then I need to find that value of x. So we're just going to take 2x plus 60 equals 4x minus 12. I got to find out what this missing value is so that these two angles will be congruent to each other. So I subtract the 2x from both sides. And we'll go ahead and add this 12 to both sides. Just go ahead and skip a step here. So we have 72 equals 2x. Therefore, x equals 36. Number 9 is going to require for us to draw a little bit of a graph here, because this is going to be the easiest way for us to determine what we're looking for here. So if I drew a graph and just plotted my points. All right, so let's go ahead and plot our points. We have the first one, which is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're at 8, 2. This is going to be A. We have B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. B. C, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 4, negative 1, 2, 3, 4 is C. All right, so we have these two lines right here. So D has to exist somewhere up here. We don't really know where that is yet. Let's go ahead and start ruling out some answers potentially. Negative 5, 2. Negative 5, 2 is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2. Well, that's not going to give me a parallelogram, so I can go ahead and erase that one. B, negative 3, 2. Okay? Possibly. That might be that might work. C, negative 2, 2. Well, that might work too. All right? And the last one, negative 4, 8. Well, that's somewhere up here, and that's not going to work. All right? So, because these two lines have to have the same slope, they have to be in the same position. So if I just went ahead and just looked at my x-axis here for a second, from my B, if I drew a line up here, and I went over 2 places and then went up, I would find what my A is. Now if I do the same thing here, if I go up to my x-axis and draw 2 places over and come back up, I'm going to create the same point right here. And in fact, now I have my parallelogram, and this point, D, is going to be negative 3, 2. This is my answer. All right, number 10. 10 again is going to be helpful if we go ahead and draw a picture for this. So we have a rectangle. All right, we're going to call it A, B, C, D. All right, and we're told that AC, which is a diagonal, is equal to 5x plus 2. And then we're told that BD is equal to x plus 22. Find the value of x. Well, with rectangles, one of the properties in diagonals is that they not only bisect each other, but they also are congruent. This diagonal will equal this diagonal. So then we have 5x plus 2 equals x plus 22. Subtract the x from both sides, subtract this 2 from both sides. And so we get 4x equals 20, x equals 5. All right. Number 11. Which of the following is true for all rectangles? The diagonals are perpendicular. No. Okay, what about the diagonals bisect the angles? Okay, that is not true. Consecutive sides are congruent. Okay, consecutive means one after the other. So if I was looking at this right here, if I had this side right here, is that congruent to this side right here? And that's no, it's not. However, because a rectangle does form 4 right angles, then this consecutive side right here would in fact be perpendicular to the other consecutive side. So consecutive sides are perpendicular. So this is D. All right, the next one we have, let's do the page over here a little bit. All right, number 12. Number 12 says ABCD is a rectangle. We're going to have to plot our graph again. So we're going to go ahead and plot a graph. And we may need a little bit more room for this because I see a 10 in here for point D. So we're going to give ourselves enough room. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's go ahead and plot some points. So the first point, -4. We're going to need a little more room in our y-axis here. So we have -4, 6. That's going to be B. We have -4, 2. That's going to be C. We have 10, 2, which is going to be D. So again, if we have to have congruent sides, then if I was just to go ahead and climb the y-axis here for a second, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4 to this B value right here. So if I do the same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I have this next point here, A. And A is going to be 10, 6. Okay. Number 13. Number 13, we have a rhombus. We're going to find the measure of angle 1. Well, again, remember with the diagonals here that the measure of angle 1, the diagonals of a rhombus are going to be perpendicular to each other. So my diagonals are going to be perpendicular, forming 4 right angles. Okay? The diagonals also create 2 congruent triangles. So this triangle is congruent to this triangle, and then we have 4 congruent triangles. So then this 22 right here is going to correspond to right here, which is going to be 22. Now that I know that, if I know that this one equals 90, this equals 22, I can add the 2 together, which is going to give me 112. The total angle sum of a triangle is 180. We subtract that from 112, and we get 68. And number 14. Looks like, again, we need to go ahead and draw just a picture here of our rectangle, or square. So we have a square. A, B, C, D. And they're going to intersect at point E. And so we're told that AE equals 2x plus 6. We're told that the whole diagonal here, wait, hang on. And we're told that BD equals 6x minus 10. BD equals 6x minus 10. Okay, let me make a correction here real quickly. when I drew my square, I drew it the wrong way. Okay, I can't go A, B, D, C. All right, we need to go ahead and go in order here. So when we do this, we really need to say A, B, C, D. Okay, that way we can see that then if A equals 2x plus 6 and BD equals 2x, I'm sorry, BD equals 6x minus 10, then my diagonals create all four congruent parts. So then this 2x plus 6 is half of the whole, which is 6x minus 10. So if I take 2 times 2x plus 6, 2 times this right here gives me the whole length. And that whole length we see is equal to 6x minus 10. So we have 4x plus 12 equals 6x minus 10. We're going to subtract the 4x, add the 10, and so we get 2x equals 22, x equals 11. Okay. Number 15. Number 15, we have an isosceles trapezoid with these points right here. Remember, isosceles trapezoids have one pair of parallel sides and one pair of congruent sides. All right, so let's go ahead and graph this. We have, let me make sure I have enough room here to do this. All right, so we're going to graph it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so let's take a look at what we got. So we have the point 10, negative 1. This is going to be A. We have 8, positive 3. This is going to be B. C is negative 1, 3. We have C here. And so we're going to look for this point down here somewhere. It's going to give me an isosceles trapezoid. So again, same thing. We can just go ahead and just draw the two sides that we do know. And again, same method we're going to apply. If I went ahead and just drew a vertical line down to my x-axis and jumped over 2 places and went down 1, I would find this point. So if I go ahead and go down to my x-axis, jump over 2 places and go down 1, then I'm going to have this point D right here. And that point D is going to be negative 3, negative 1. So negative 3, negative 1. Okay. There's some things around here. All right, number 16, isosceles trapezoid MNOP. All right. So for number 16, we have to remember that with trapezoids, my diagonals are going to be, okay, actually, never mind, I'm forgetting about the diagonals here for a second. I'm going to approach this a different way with you guys. All right, so let's look at one of the things that we know about isosceles trapezoids are that the base angles are going to be congruent to each other. So then this angle right here is equal to 36, and this angle right here is equal to 44. What we're looking for is this angle right here, MNP, okay? Well, let's just go ahead and work with our angles here for a second. So if I know that this angle right here is 36 and this angle right here is 36, then I know this angle is 108. This angle is 108. So that makes, by linear pairs, this angle right here, 72. All right? So if we know this angle is 72, because again, remember linear pair again. So then we have 72 plus 44 is going to be 116. So I take that 116 and subtract it from 180, which is the total angle sum of the triangles, and we have 464. So it's going to be G. Right. And some of you may have different ways of going about this, and that's fine. There's a number of different ways that we can find these answers sometimes. All right, number 18. Number 18 says Judith built a fence to surround her property on a coordinate plane. The four corners of the fence are located at -16, 1, the following points. Which of the following most accurately describes the shape of Judith's fence? Again, the easiest way to do this is just to go ahead and sketch a graph. Now again, we've got a pretty big number sitting here with this -16, so we've got to make sure that we account for it. So let's go ahead and just go by twos. So -2, -4, -6, -8, -10. So we have -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, -12, -14, -16. That's going to take care of catching this number right here. So we'll do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 here as well. All right. And then we'll go by ones on the y-axis. So we can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so let's just go ahead and plot our points. We have -16, 1. We have -6, 5. We have 4, 1. And we have -6, 3. So my assumption is when I'm looking at this originally, I would say that this would be a kite. But that would assume that I actually plotted my points correctly, as I just realized. All right, let's go back to this for a second. So we have 4, 1, and then -6, -3. That looks about right. Let's see, so let's verify this. -16, 1, -6, 5. We have 4, 1, and -6, -3. Okay. So, realistically, given my choices here, it's not a rectangle, it's not a trapezoid, it's not a square because I don't have 90-degree angles, so the one that I'm left with is a rhombus, which means that I have all four sides equal to each other. My diagonals, if I found the distance between those points, would form 90-degree angles. Okay? All right, so we have H for number 18. Last two. Number 19 for kite PQRS. This Q right here we're missing. We're looking for the measure of angle S. Now, this one's going to be pretty easy because we know that this measure of angle R is 90. The sum of all of these angles would equal 360. So if we added 90 plus 22, we got 112. Now if all of these angles equaled 360, let's just do that. Let's just go ahead and add these together because these are going to be the same measurement right here. Because in kites, one pair of opposite angles have to be congruent. So we have 22 plus 90 plus x, and that's going to equal 360. So we have 112 plus 2x equals 360. when we subtract the 112, we get 248. So when I divide the 2, we get 124. Is that my right answer? No. That's what x equals. Yes, that is my right answer, sorry. X is 124. Okay? All right, number 20. All right, we have ABCD is a parallelogram with the points again here. To prove that ABCD is a rectangle, you would plot the parallelogram on a coordinate plane and then find which of the following. So if I was going to plot these, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. This is going to be point A. We have 4, -1. So let's take that line out. 4, -1. This is going to be B. We have -2, -1. This is C. And -2, 2, which is going to be D. So this kind of goes back to that little picture we had of the deck when we were going through the presentation of it. In order for my deck to square up these corners to have 90 degrees, my diagonals would have to be congruent to each other. So I would need to know the lengths of my diagonals were congruent to each other.